Hello, and welcome to the Midwest Fantasy Football Week 16 Championship Recap.
I I thought you were dead.
My death was greatly exaggerated.
Okay, so no one thought I was dead, but I do apologize for the lateness of this video. After going to Nashville and getting back shortly after Christmas, I got wrapped up in other things, namely work, the NFL playoffs, and The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. But we're here now, that's all that matters. Couldn't end the season without properly singing the praises of our newest repeat champion. In the championship, Derek's Freeman Isn't Free defeats Nick's Hootie and the T-Below Fish 143.4 to 139, a 4.5 point margin of victory. This was a heck of a barn burner, being the highest scoring championship in league history. With the win, Derek secures his second championship in 3 seasons, joining Pope 2.0, whose 2 championships also came during a 3-year span. Derek was led to the championship win on the strength of a team performance. Miles Sanders led the team with 24.1 points, followed up by 22.9 points from Drew Brees and 21.9 from Jared Cook. The worst performance from Derek was the 9 points he got from his kicker. Not bad at all. Derek could have used Devonta Freeman's 29 points off the bench, but because of the strength of the starters, it would have netted him no more than an additional 16 points. But you weren't going to bench Zeke, so it's probably more like 12 points. For Nick, his run as the league's perennial bridesmaid and not the bride continues, coming in with a second place finish yet again. You've now finished second place 5 times, fourth 3 times, and 12th once. For those scoring at home, those are all even numbers. Yes, Nick has never won the final game of the season, now sitting at an impressive 0-8 streak. Nick had the 2 biggest hitters in this matchup, getting a massive 34.9 points from Kenyon Drake and 28.6 from Michael Thomas. Unfortunately, Tyler Lockett shit the bed when it mattered the most, giving you only 2.4 points in a championship performance. You really could have used the 32.3 points that Tyler Boyd put up while sitting on your bench.
Shouldn't have done that.
With that huge game, Nick won the Battle of the Benches, putting up 81.3 points to Derek's 54.
Damn worst game I ever seen.
In our third place game, Drew's Run CMC follows up his championship last year with a third place finish this year, securing the W over Pope 1.0's To Deuce or Not to Deuce 115.6 to 76.9. Drew was led by a pair of 24-point games, getting 24.8 from Christian McCaffrey and 24.3 from Mark Andrews. You followed that up with a trio of double-digit games from Deebo Samuel, Cooper Kupp, and Jimmy Garoppolo. Your main weak spot was the Minnesota Vikings kicker Dan Bailey's 4 points, but you should have known better. The Vikings always disappoint when it comes to the playoffs.
It's funny because it's true.
Speaking of disappointment, this was a rough finish to the year for our number 1 overall seed. Pope 1 falls to 4th place and scores a meager 77 points. Maybe it was the sting of being eliminated from championship contention last week, or just the relief of not being the deuce again. Your team did not show up this week. Except for Aaron Jones. Jones' 30 points accounted for almost half the team's total. Other than him, you got 11 points from Jameis Winston and then 9.2 points from Dion Lewis. Anytime the third best guy in your team only scored 9 points, things are not going to go well for you. Anthony Miller's 0.7 points, Mike Boone's 3 points, or Amari Cooper's 4.4 points didn't really help either. Any way you want to point a finger, your boys pretty much sucked balls in this one. Speaking of sucking balls, how about that new deuce?
You're such a little turd that when you sit in sand, cats try to bury you.
In the deuce matchup, Alex's Funkle Up ends up with the loss, falling to my Melvin Gordon Bombay 108.5 to 101.3. As he often did this season, Lamar Jackson carried my team when I needed him most, unlike the actual NFL playoffs. He put up 32.8 points for my squad. I also got 19.7 points from Melvin Gordon in what is likely his final game as a Charger. My money's on him being in Atlanta next year. For Alex, you got 21.8 points from Phillip Lindsay, 17.3 points from your Super Bowl championship Kansas City Chiefs defense, and 17.2 points from Tom Brady. I joke about it being his last game, but I don't want to jinx it. If you had to point a finger at somebody, Zach Ertz only put up 4.8 points in the loss, being one of 6 players that you had that scored single-digit points. One final recap of wagers for the rest of the year that kind of finalized at the end of the year. Scott and my wager on the AFC North winner ended up being a wash since Baltimore won the division and neither Pittsburgh or Cleveland did. In one of the biggest surprises of the season, that we've talked about all year, Randall Cobb ends up with 55 catches to Jake Kumerow's 12. So it was that close.
I don't believe you.
That wins the 6-pack from me from Drew. I owe Alex a 30-pack for sticking him with the deuce instead of myself. I lost 2 6-packs on betting in the playoff matchup that Tennessee would beat Kansas City. One straight up and then one with a spread. Neither went well despite looking pretty decent at the end of the first quarter of that game. I looked at the notes that I save during this course of the season, and there really weren't any rule changes suggested for this year. There were 2 things that were kind of getting kicked around, which was lowering the bonus threshold for wide receivers from like 125 to 120 or 115, and then trying to nerf quarterback scoring because the QBs are just so ridiculous. By increasing the penalties for turnovers, like more penalties for a fumble, more penalties for an interception. Overall, I think the league's in a pretty good spot. Draft weekend 2020 will be August 28th through the 30th. Labor Day's late this year on the 7th of September. Location still to be determined. Here's a screenshot of how much money was won by each owner this year. If you don't contact me and you won less than 50, I'm just going to assume you want me to roll it over to next year. If you won more than 50, well, you should probably message me to let me know how you want to be paid. I can spend Venmo or PayPal or cut you a check or give you cash the next time I see you. I attached the team tracking spreadsheet for 2020 keepers to this email. I updated the sheet with all players who are eligible for keeping based on team rosters at the end of Week 14. There was only one player who moved from one owner to another after Week 14, which was Indianapolis defenses, so they are marked as not keepable. And with that, I'm signing off for the year.
Let's go back to our dull lives and search for meaning.
Fantasy football is over. There's always Fantasy XFL, or Fantasy NASCAR, or Fantasy Baseball, if you're a true degenerate like Nick or I. You're all welcome to come hang out for March Madness, if you want to. We'll be watching hoops, drinking beer, playing video games for 4 days in March. Congrats again to Derek, and we'll see you later.